Chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã quay lại với kênh của Jessie Nguyễn. Hôm nay mình với em Mây sẽ đọc cho các bạn một cuốn sách mới. Mây nè, hôm nay mình sẽ đọc cuốn sách gì?
Nhà khoa học nhí.
Ok, let's go.
Kid Scientist. True tales of childhood from science superstars. Stories by David Stapler. Illustration by Anusha Sid. Now the Grace Tyson. Jane Goodall. Albert Einstein. Katherine Johnson. Sally Ride. Mary Curie. Benjamin Franklin. Nikola Tesla. Introduction. The painter Pablo Picasso once said that every child is an artist. It's equally true that every kid is a scientist. A scientist's job is to ask questions and seek answers. And who's better at that than a kid? Scientists begin by asking why, and then they'll find out the how. You might not know all of the scientists in this book by name, but because of them, we know about gravity, DNA, dark matter, and black holes. We have electricity, calculus, and computer code, and we walk on the moon. But before these scientists were making groundbreaking discoveries, they were just ordinary kids who were curious about the world around them. Some loved gazing up at the night sky, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He started a dog walking business to save up enough money to buy his first telescope. I hope this telescope is worth it. And Vera Rubin, who discovered dark matter, used to stay up all night watching meteor showers from her bedroom window. Vera, go to bed! Some kids love animals and nature, like Jane Goodall. Before she lived among the chimpanzees in Tanzania, she horrified her mother by keeping worms under her pillow. Aren't they cute? As a child, George Washington Carver was also fascinated by the natural world. He loved the plants in his garden so much that he even talked to them. Don't worry, roses. A little rain, sun, and rain, and you'll feel better. Other kids wanted to know how stuff worked, so they took things apart and built all kinds of contraption. Before long, he discovered gravity. Isaac Newton built a windmill that spun with the help of mice. Benjamin Franklin's very first invention was a pair of fins that allowed him to swim faster. A sword from the construction or the lightning rod. I think these are my greatest achievement. The few these kid scientists did for fun, whether stargazing, worm collecting, or toy building, ended up becoming the foundations of amazing discoveries. Playing Making messes and asking lots of questions are some of the most important things as a kid can do. There are also some of the best ways to develop a curious and scientific mind. So who knows? Everyone starts out small, but if you work hard and dream big, you just might become the universe's next science superstar. Part 1. Reaching for the stars. Constellations, homemade telescopes, and planetariums. Before these kids, scientists learned the secrets of outer space and even went there. They loved gazing at the night sky. Katherine Johnson. You can count on me. The calculation of Katherine Johnson, a brilliant African-American woman from West Virginia, helped put a man on the moon for the very first time. With support from her family and the guidance of her teachers, she was able to develop her extraordinary math skills. Despite facing racial prejudice, she became one of the heroines in humanity's race to the stars. Long before her calculation helped the astronaut Neil Armstrong take his first steps across the moon, Katherine was counting the steps across her own front yard in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. And that wasn't all she counted. I counted everything, Katherine later recalled. She counted the steps from her front door to the road that ran past her house, the steps from her house to the church in the center of the town, and the numbers of dishes, forks, and knives she had to wash after supper. Anything that could be counted, I did, she said. 63, 64. Katherine's love of counting only grew as she got older. She likely inherited her knack of numbers from her father, Joshua Coleman, a farmer who had left school after the 6th grade. Despite his lack of formal schooling, Joshua was a math genius. He could look at a tree and instantly tell you how many boards could be carved out of its wood just by doing the calculation in his head. 173 boards. Wow! Amazing! Because he regretted leaving school at such a young age, Joshua always stressed the importance of education to his daughter and her 3 older siblings. Katherine's mother, Joel, used to be a teacher, and she shared Joshua's enthusiasm for education. Whatever Katherine would achieve in life, and opportunities were few for African American girls when she was growing up. In the 1920s, she knew it would begin in the classroom. When still a toddler, Katherine started following her older brother to a 2-room schoolhouse where he attended class. At first, the teacher would not allow Katherine inside, but when they found out that she could already read at an age when many kids were still learning to walk, they agreed to let her attend summer school. Katherine made great progress when it was time for her to begin elementary school. She skipped 1st grade and went straight into 2nd grade. Just before she turned 6 years old, Catherine continued to make a good impression on her teachers. She raised her hand often to ask questions, but every once in a while, her teacher would turn away from the blackboard to see that Catherine was missing. They would find her in the missing classroom next door, where she was helping her older brother solve math problems. "Hey, where are you going?" Being smart is great, but it wasn't always easy for Catherine to be the brain in the family. Every night, she and her older and two sisters would gather around the kitchen table to do their homework. After Catherine finishes hers, she has to help her siblings finish theirs. And then you carry the two. Oh, I see. But being smart definitely has its advantage. When Catherine was about to start 5th grade, she was permitted to jump ahead to 6th grade. She now skipped 2 grade levels, putting her 1 grade above her older brother. It seemed as if nothing could stop her progress. But at the end of the school year, a certain future awaited. At the time, the state of West Virginia was segregated by race. White students in Catherine's town could continue on to high school, but there is no schools beyond the 6th grade for African American children like Catherine. It was expected that she would take a job as a servant or housekeeper. Catherine's father has a different idea. He knew of a school in the town of Institute, 120 miles away, where Catherine could continue her education. It would cost a lot of money, but Joshua decided to send Catherine, her mother, and her 3 older siblings to Institute at the start of the next school year. Joshua planned to move his family back home to White Sulphur Springs in time for summer break. To pay for all the travel back and forth, he took a second job as a janitor at Green Bear, a world-famous resort in their town. Thanks to her family's sacrifice, Catherine was able to attend class without interruption. In fact, she got such good grades that she was able to start at high school when she was just 10 years old. The teachers at Catherine's new school quickly recognized her capacity for learning. At the end of the long day in the classroom, the high school principal, Sherman H. Goss, would personally walk Catherine home. Along the way, he would point out the various constellations in the sky. This was Catherine's first experience with astronomy, the branch of science that would one day change her life. When the school year ended, Catherine returned home. She took a job as a maid in Greenville Resort, where her father worked. For the next few summers, she cleaned house rooms, washed clothes, and chattered to the wealthy and famous guests who passed through town. One of these guests was a legend French woman, a countess who spent hours on the telephone talking to her friends in Paris. As she tidied up the countess's room, Catherine became transfixed by the sound of the French language. When the countess noticed her maid listening to her conversation, she did not get angry. Instead, she took Catherine down to the Green Bear's kitchen and ordered the chef to teach her how to speak French like a native. Before long, Catherine had learned the basics of the language. Teach her French and make me an omelet, please. Oui, madame. Despite having mastered math, starting learning French, and been introduced to astronomy, Catherine was far from finished with her education. At the age of 14, she graduated from high school and earned a full scholarship to West Virginia State College. Some kids might have been intimidated by the idea of going off to college at such a young age, but not Catherine. She had grown up across the street from the school's campus and already knew most of her classmates. I was a fresh kid in a freshman class and was treated no differently than anyone else, she said. Excuse me, sir. Where's the lecture hall? At West Virginia, a historic black college. Catherine was fortunate to find teachers who understood what it is like to be a star pupil. One special teacher was Angie Turner King, one of the first African American women to earn an advanced degree in mathematics education, like Catherine. Dr. King graduated from high school at age 14. She paid her way through college by waiting tables and washing dishes. She saw that she and Catherine has a lot in common. During Catherine's sophomore year in college, she took a class taught by William Claytor, another African American math pioneer. Dr. Claytor was a notoriously tough teacher. During class, he would furiously scribble equations on the chalkboard and just as quickly erase them. Very few students could follow his lectures, but Catherine could. Yes, the girl in the green dress. After class Monday, Dr. Claytor told Catherine that she would make a fine mathematician. That was all she needed to hear. Catherine relished the chance to excel in a field that offered so few opportunities for African American girls like her. In 1937, at age 18, Catherine graduated from college with a degree in mathematics. Following her mother's example, she took a job as an elementary school teacher, married, and started a family. But when the opportunity arose to work as a mathematician for what would one day be called NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Catherine leaped at the chance. Catherine was part of the team of the extraordinary African Americans whose calculation helped NASA land the first astronaut on the moon in 1969. In 2015, in recognition of her contribution to America's space program, Katherine Johnson was awarded the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freedom. They couldn't have done it without us. Thanks, Catherine. Vera Rubin, Galaxy Girl. Does the universe spin? If so, how fast? A lifelong fascination with the stars led future astronomer Vera Rubin to search for the answers to these questions, which she first contemplated while gazing through the homemade telescope in her childhood bedroom. I became an astronomer because of looking at the sky, Vera Rubin once said. Before, more than books, more than teachers, it was her own sense to wonder that Vera wanted to study stars when she grew up. But before she could do that, she had to overcome the doubts of people on her journey to become one of the pioneering women in her field. Vera Rubin was born Vera Florence Cooper on July 23, 1928 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her older sister, Ruth, was her closest friend. Vera's parents, Rose and Philip Cooper, worked for the Bell Telephone Company in Philadelphia. Rose calculated the mileage for private phone lines. Philip was an electrical engineer. When she was a little girl, Vera's parents took her to Moore School of Engineering at the University of Pennsylvania. Among the science exhibits on display was a device called the Van de Graaff generator, a large aluminum bond mounted on a pedestal that generates static electricity. When Vera touched the bond, something unexpected happened. Blue sparks shot out of it, and her hair stood at the end. This is certainly a hair-raising experience. Buzz, buzz. A short time later, Vera visited another Philadelphia landmark, the Franklin Institute. This science museum and education center is named for Benjamin Franklin, one of the city's most famous residents. Vera was quickly dazzled by the Institute's walk-in kaleidoscope, a chamber of mirrors and color lights that made her feel that she was on another planet. Vera began to think about how the kaleidoscope worked. She decided to build her own using everyday household materials. When she got home, she searched the kitchen for a metal tube and found the ice cream squeezer, which her mom used to frost cakes. Then Vera cut out big pieces of polished glass and glued them inside the cylinder. These would serve as interior reflectors. When she held up her creation above the interior up to the light, instant kaleidoscope. It wasn't the most spectacular light show she ever seen, but it worked. It's almost like seeing unseen forces at work in the universe. When Vera was 10 years old, her family moved to Washington, D.C. for her father's job. Because space was limited in their new home, Vera and Ruth shared a room and a double bed, which neither sister was happy about. To maintain their privacy, the girls drew an imaginary line down the center of the mattress. Vera's half of the bed faced the window. Beyond it was the northern sky. From this little window porch, as she called it, Vera could gaze up at the stars as they traced their course across the night sky. She became mesmerized by the constellation as soon as she discovered that she could tell time by the movement of the stars and get a sense of the motions of the earth as well. Sometimes Vera saw meteors streaking through the inky blackness. During the showers caused by space rocks, meteoroids orbiting the sun, she would stay up all night to observe the shooting stars. for her mother would scold her. For the most part, Vera's parents allowed their daughter to pursue her new hobby. Vera, go to bed! While watching these spectacular celestial events, Vera mesmerized the path of each meteor trail. In the morning, she would draw a map to record all of her observations. After a few months of stargazing with a naked eye, Vera decided that she needed a telescope to help her see more clearly. But telescopes are expensive. The more she could afford to buy was a telescope lens. The rest she decided that she would have to build it herself. So Vera took a bus downtown and went to a store that sold linoleum flooring. She persuaded the manager to let her have one of the cardboard tubes the linoleum came on. Then, with a help from her dad, she fixed the lens to come one end of the tube and looked through it. Her homemade telescope wasn't the best, but it was best she could do with the materials on hand. When Vera was 14, she asked her dad to take her to a meeting of the local amateur astronomer club. There, she listened to a lecture by a famous astronomer named Halo Shapley, who has used his observation of the motion of stars to estimate the size of the Milky Way galaxy. The lecture helped convince Vera that astronomy could be more than just a hobby. Someday, it might be her career. From then on, she and her father attended the club monthly meetings. Vera also started borrowing astronomy books from the library and told a family friend, Goldie Goldberg, about her interest in the stars. One night, Goldie and her husband drove Vera and her sister to Virginia in their convertible car. With the car's roof open to the sky, they gazed up at the stars. Goldie taught her the names of the constellation that Vera had never heard about before: Ursa Major, Orion, Pegasus, and more. Goldie also told her about her own girlhood science-related dreams. She wanted to become an engineer. But at the time, the University of Pennsylvania did not admit to its engineering school, so she had to get a teaching degree instead. For the first time, Vera realized that there might be obstacles on her way to becoming an astronomer. In high school, Vera continued to study astronomy any way she could. For her assignments, no matter what the subject, she tried to choose topics related to stars, space, or the universe. By the time she graduated, Vera knew exactly what she wanted to study in college. Her good grades earned her scholarship at several schools. Now she just had to decide which one to attend. At first, Vera considered Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania, but the admission officer there suggested that she take up a more ladylike career, such as painting the stars and planets instead of studying them. After the experience, whenever someone placed an obstacle in Vera's way, she would call a family member a joke. Have you ever thought about going into painting instead? I think this is more your speed. Despite a lack of encouragement, Vera refuses to let people's unfair and old-fashioned opinions about girls studying science stop her from pursuing her dream. Vera also earned admission to Vassar, an all-women's college in New York. If she attended Vassar, she would have an opportunity to study with Mary Mitchell, America's most prominent female astronomer. Vera thought Vassar was a right choice for her, but then she showed her high school physics teacher the most acceptance letter. He simply dismissed her choice. As long as you stay away from science, you should do all right, he said. We'll see about that. Vera didn't listen to his advice. In the fall of 1945, she left home for Vassar. 4 years later, she became the only member of her class, male or female, to graduate with a degree in astronomy. Vera moved back to Washington, D.C. with her husband, Bob Rubin, a chemistry student she had met on summer break. She continued to work, teach, and study the stars until her death in 2016 at age 88. Among her many scientific breakthroughs, Vera developed a theory that galaxies spin the same way as the solar system do, and an unseen. At first, many of Vera Rubin's ideas were considered controversial, but over time, other scientists have come to understand that she was right all along. If astronomers are still using my data years from now, that's my greatest compliment, she once said. Whether or not they agree with her findings, astronomers the world over owe an enormous debt to a woman who opened the field to new voices and new ideas.